With 50-plus years of combined produce, supply chain, entrepreneurial, and business experience, Craig Slade and Ed Bertad discuss the impacts of fresh produce on their lives and health. This podcast is a casual conversation between two friends just trying to get better. This is the Fresh CrEd.
And guys, we are back for another exciting talk here on the Fresh CrEd, here live at IFPA Foodservice Conference in Monterey, California. Welcome,
Is that
Ed.
your dude voice?
Welcome back, baby. Rock and roll, huh? Hang tight.
That's your dude voice.
That is.
Right on, man.
I'm getting, hey, baby, it's all good. I don't know. It's kind of getting, you've quit saying we got a long time to go. We went. I got me some coffee. I had a double espresso cappuccino.
I got something called a kickstart.
Yeah, and so I think we're about to kickstart this day.
Yeah,
right?
I'm about to take off.
So that's perfect because we've got a young lady here with us, joining us all the way from the great state of Ohio.
Ohio.
Way to go, Ohio. Is that a song?
Round on the outside, high in the middle, Ohio.
Oh, yeah. There you go. I like it. All right. So this is Jessica Shelly. She is the Director of Student Dining in Cincinnati, Ohio. And Jessica, I worked for Chiquita.
Oh.
For 14 years.
And then you left us. You left our fair city.
I did. Well, they left. I was gone when they made that move. But I can tell you, for me personally, it's one of my favorite cities. I love downtown Cincinnati.
Oh, well, thank you. Come back and visit anytime.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Chiquita was very instrumental in helping us in our school district bring salad bars to every single one of our schools.
Is that right?
Chiquita was the very first donation through the old United Fresh Foundation that brought salad bars into eventually all 67 of our schools.
Well, I did not know that. I just know that, like I said, I used to spend quite a bit of time there in downtown Cincinnati. I loved it, but especially loved Montgomery Inn.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're ever in Cincinnati, I'm telling you, Reds game and Montgomery Inn ribs. That's a must on the bucket list. I'm just telling you right now, for sure. So
I agree.
But but thank you for joining us today, for sure.
Thank you for having me.
We got a lot of material to cover here. You guys, I mean, certainly nothing easy about the school biz, right? I mean, but I got to believe feeding a bunch of rugrats is very challenging.
It's been very challenging, especially over these last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really rewarding and important job that my team is able to do for our scholars, and that's making sure that they have access to fresh, healthy, nutritious meals every day, and that includes access to fresh produce. A lot of my students, unfortunately, live in areas of food deserts where they don't have the ability to get to a place to buy fresh produce, and so being able to offer that to them from my schools is something that's very powerful.
Yeah, no, and like I say, we've had several on that we've talked through the day, but really we're going to change the world. We're going to change how people eat. It starts at that early age, right? I mean, you're impacting the world in a huge way because they're not only going to be adult consumers, but what they learn will be what they teach to their kids and the next generation. I mean, that's how we start to really change move the dial, as they say, right?
Yeah, I agree completely. And I also find that sometimes our children are also our educators. And there's times that I've gotten calls from parents who've said, wait a minute, are you serving a mango in your school today? And I'd be like, yes, how do you know that? And they're like, my kids came home. We were walking through our local grocery store, and they saw the big pile of mangoes. Like, we got to buy one of those. I just had one. It's really good. And they're like, where'd you find a mango from? So it got to be that our local grocery store chain, actually Kroger's, of course, in Cincinnati, actually called me and said, can you let us know when you're introducing a next new fruit or vegetable to the kids? Because all of a sudden see a huge increase, a spike in that particular item from our grocery stores. So let us know if you're coming out with a new baby cauliflower, or let us be prepared so we can actually have it in stock for our families.
That's pretty cool, for sure. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That it moves the needle.
Well, yeah, and and she mentioned the salad bars. Mm-hmm. You and I have a little bit of a history there.
Yeah, I mean, So I think way back when we were trying to drum up some salad bars for schools, we actually were turned down by some districts. So do you have any, I mean, can you?
I was probably one of those districts.
No,
So
no, you weren't.
So true story. Are you sure about that?
No, I'm sure.
Hey, for Ed now,
this was regional.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was regional, and he was living in Texas still, and I still live there. But yeah, we were surprised because, and you know, it makes sense. Obviously, there are some logistics challenges, and there's a lot to be fleshed out other than just providing the bar itself, right? It's keeping it stocked every day. So, I mean, I think to a certain degree, if some school districts aren't ready for it, then it was just easier to say, you know, well, thanks, but we'll pass at this time and come back and see us.
And this is where I tell you my story where I swallowed my pride really hard and admitted I was wrong. So I fell into school nutrition backwards, completely backwards. My degree is actually in epidemiology.
Okay.
And I worked for the Cincinnati Health Department.
All right.
So I used to go around and actually help educate on how schools could operate in a food safety sense with all of the different produce and meats and proteins they were dealing with. And so I was a little bit anti-salad bar. A little bit concerned about how we keep the food safe, sliced melons, sliced tomatoes, you know, diced leafy greens. How do we keep this food safe? How do we keep the little kids' hands out of it? And when I was approached by United Fresh for the Chiquita donation, I kind of was like, I'm going to do this just so I can prove that salad bars shouldn't be in schools. And so I took this, I swear to gosh,
crazy.
I told you I'm going to follow my sword here.
Yeah.
And so I brought the salad bars in. And what I found instead was such excitement from the kids. And they were so thrilled to have this opportunity to create their own salads, create their own sides and top their different entrees with fresh lettuce and tomatoes, that they were very respectful and went through that line and used the tongs properly. My staff came to me and said, this is so much easier than making side salads, entree salads, side dishes, chopping fruits. Everything's right there for us. It saves about maybe an hour or two of labor every day for these salad bars. And I was
Free
like,
labor.
oh my goodness. And so I went back out and I said, you know what? This is now going to be my mission. And I'm going to get a salad bar in every single one of my schools. And I'm going to do it by next school year.
Wow.
And I went out and pounded the pavement and got enough donations and wrote enough grants that I was able to put a salad bar in every one of my schools.
How many schools is that?
67.
That is impressive. Wow. So how long have they had the salad bars?
That was 2010. So they've been having them now for, almost 12 years. And what's great is that you're seeing this culture, right? Those kindergartners that first went through those salad bar lines, they came to expect it. And I think that was one of the hardest things of COVID. We couldn't have our salad bars out there. And they were kind of like, when are the salad bars coming back? And I'm like, I promise you, they're going to be here. And it was almost like a little mini celebration when we were able to finally bring them back into our schools last year.
That's a fabulous story. I mean, because I was going to ask you, how do you even, get into the space of, being the director of food for the schools of Cincinnati, and how does that path? I would not have guessed that. And now so you are a true believer. Obviously, you've seen it and you've watched it. You've been out and hit the pavement, and like I say, and you talk about those kids that went through and them being, now much older and probably stuff that they would have never
tried before. Right. I think it's interesting because part of that has also been the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program that was offered through USDA, and we introduced some of our products to those kiddos in the classrooms with a bunch of education around them, and trying jicama for the first time and putting a little bit of tahini on it and seeing how it tasted, and it was crunchy, and then they'd see it on the salad bar and they'd be like, oh, I've had that.
Right.
I'm going to try that and put that, to put the matchsticks on my salad too and make my salad crunchy. It's really hard. One of the things that's really challenging is a lot of the rules have changed for us, which has been fabulous. We're offering a much more healthier selection of school meals when the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act went into effect. But it was one of those things where our kids weren't used to getting that fresh produce, and it takes longer to eat an apple than it does applesauce. It takes longer to eat a salad than it does French fries. And so a lot of our kids were building these beautiful salads, not having enough time to eat them.
Huh.
And so nothing sadder than watching a child shovel a salad into their mouth as they're walking to a trash can. So I'm now becoming a big advocate of giving kids time to eat, time to enjoy that fresh, beautiful produce we're offering to them. Making that connection when they get excited and say, "Oh, I remember that. We just had that. That's a pluot. Wow!" They get really excited. Letting them get the time to actually enjoy that pluot instead of having to take a bite and toss it out.
So what's the typical lunch period in your district?
Our typical lunch period is a half hour, but that half hour includes recess.
Oh
so
my gosh.
From the time our child leaves the classroom, washes their hands, goes through the line, sits down and eat, and then goes outside for recess is a half hour. And so I like to advocate for 20 minutes of seat time so kids can actually enjoy their food and respect their food.
Yeah.
As I'm here, I never even thought about that part, but and I'm sure it was similar. I don't recall having any extended period of time, but I'm sure it was similar for us when I was a kid. And you think about that, how we condition ourselves as a society as rush through life, right? Let's compact as much as we possibly can in, and we're eating food just because we got to. We eat it and we're out to go. In other words. Wow, that's an interesting concept. Yeah, and good. That's one. You know what? That's as important as pushing for the healthy food. They do need the time because you'll develop that relationship. You'll develop the relationship with the taste and the food and the conversations they're having with other classmates. Right, the time to enjoy and experience it and talk about the pluot or whatever. But that seems great. But I never even thought about that. But we just start to condition at that early age. It's like. Bam, everything is just fast paced and out the door you go. And
yeah, I'd like to think of, lunchtime can also be a time for us to learn. Mm-hmm. It's a time for us to explore and be able to understand how we can nourish our bodies. And so, we're all educators. Every single person on my lunch line, all my cooks are educators. They're teaching kids how to be healthy. And it's interesting because Ohio has actually recognized that if you have breakfast in your classroom, that can be counted towards instructional time, but lunch cannot.
Say what now?
So Ohio has, it's fabulous. I'm very happy they did it. They are able, if we serve breakfast to children in their classroom where they can eat at the beginning of their day, listen to morning announcements, that can be included as part of instructional time. But lunch is not considered part of instructional time. So I think that's why a lot of districts across the country really compact that lunch recess time because it can't count towards the number of hours that a child has to be in school every day.
I think Texas is the same.
Wow.
At least in our district, I think the breakfast thing, I think it's in the morning in class, right? And they're able to...
So they're able to enjoy it. They're able to get those fresh strawberries and really enjoy them in the morning, and they're able to, make the orange. I love it when they take the orange and make the orange smiles and smile at each other.
Right.
They have the time to do that because it's part of their class day. But at lunchtime, it's just like...
Right.
Go.
Wow. So I don't want to, I want to make sure we get K12. What is this? So the program, we talked to Andrew last week about that.
I wanted to see, is this your first time at this expo?
This is not my first time at the
Okay.
expo.
Okay.
I got the privilege to actually go a couple times in Chicago. And it has always been one of my favorite places to go to. A lot of us in school professions, we go to a bunch of different shows to see a bunch of different product. But here's where you just see things that are really outside the box. And that's what we want. It's not really even outside the box. We take the box and throw it on the ground and smash it, right? But being able to bring in what is being seen in C&U or in a small chain restaurant, that's the kind of thing we want to actually be able to offer to our kids. So we really challenge ourselves to take what we see here at the store, at the show, and figure out how we can make that fit into our program. And I got to tell you, so I geek out downstairs on the floor. I just found a couple products I was just over the moon for. And one of them, it sounds so silly, but it's a big deal, and that's chopped cilantro. And it sounds so silly, right? But my chef was always like, "Oh my gosh, it takes so much time to de-stem all the cilantro and chop it, and so we rarely use the cilantro because it's just so labor intensive." Here's a product that I can bring in, put it onto my salad bars anytime we do our Mexican bars,
for sure.
and the kids can then create their own flavor profile. If the cilantro is not their style, that's cool.
Yeah.
They don't have to have it, but it's there for the kids who want it. And it's awesome to be able to have an opportunity to expose the kids to different produce items. And I find those by being here. here's where I make those connections. Here's where I find the distributors that have those creative new ideas that I can grab onto.
Right.
Or if there's an idea that I'm like, oh, I'd love to do this, but it won't fit into what I need to have as a K12 industry partner. Here's what you could do to kind of switch the angle a little bit, and then you're going to find a completely new market to come into. So that's really exciting when you get those partnerships formed.
No, that's so yeah. So cilantro. And you said you found 2 products so far.
Oh, I found a lot of products.
Yeah.
I was going for my phone over there. I was texting my chef, and she's like, "It's a Friday night, you know that?" I'm like, "I know, but you can't believe what else I found." I loved it. We found, there was rainbow carrot coins, which is a new thing for us. We've always had the rainbow carrot, like the baby carrots, but coins. I'm
my gosh.
Really cool.
For kids will love that.
Yeah. And then I found I'm sorry. I'm going to get really geeked out on you.
Geek it
I
out.
found already pre-cubed, pre-chopped butternut squash. And that's really hard for us to get done. And it's, again, very labor intensive, but it's already done and chopped for us.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, yeah, and I can do a combination and mix that with Brussels sprouts for you. And I'm like, I'm like, perfect.
I may come up there and have lunch.
Right. I was. So it's that kind of like experience where you find these new and different things that you get really excited about.
Yeah, no. I mean, and you can see and the beauty that your passion that you have. I mean, but that is infectious, right? And that's going to be, that's going to translate through the kind of food your kids are going to get. And so that's what we need as an industry is folks like you on the front line, right? Helping push butternut squash and Brussels sprouts and things like that. I mean, there were no Brussels sprouts in Mesquite, Texas, where I grew up. I can assure you of that. We didn't see that in lunch line.
Yeah.
So, it's encouraging. It's what the industry needs. So is that,
Well,
I mean...
The irony is, where I went to school, I'm thinking about public school, not far from here. It was in the fields across the road, but never in our lunches.
Never in the lunch,
it was literally surrounding us.
True that.
But it wasn't
about that.
in
That's
our lunch.
wild, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really sad.
Welcome to Behind the Greens. Devoted to quality, consistency, and an ever-evolving perfect produce program, Nogales, Arizona-based SunFed is at the top of its game with fruit and vegetables produced by some of the world's finest growers. With the increasing demand for more flavorful and nutritious cuisine, SunFed is ramping up its eggplant program in the fertile soil of the Culiacan region of northwestern Mexico. The versatile vegetable is triple washed and packed in state-of-the-art facilities in order to bring a consistently dependable and superior product to market. Like all of SunFed's produce offerings, perfect eggplants are grown in both a sustainable and responsible way, ensuring that not only the product is cared for, but the people as well. To ensure food safety standards are not only met, but exceeded, the company has established its own internal food safety standards and audits, administered by SunFed's food safety specialists, while Primus Labs conducts field testing utilizing multi-residue screening. And food safety isn't the only topic that is top of mind for SunFed. In addition to having pioneered innovative packaging for eggplant under the Perfect Produce brand, SunFed has pursued advancements in extending shelf life with modified atmosphere/modified humidity packaging. For the customer that buys first with their eyes, this eye-catching, original campaign will bring both differentiation and quality to produce departments. Thank you for watching Behind the Greens.
a good point. But you guys, I mean, did you eat a lot? I mean, even though you didn't eat at school, or was it also?
I mean, it was pizza or grilled cheese.
The same thing as everybody else, right?
Yeah.
We shipped everything out to somebody. It's weird, but yeah, I mean, it's so this whole move. So is that a little bit about? So what is the K12 program? I mean, can you kind of sum up what that is? And
so here at IFPA, they actually invite some of the leading K12 directors to come in and also to do farm tours. We actually got to go out and go into the fields and see how different produce is processed, and then go through the show itself to find new items and collaborate and speak with vendors, and then go through the educational sessions and bring information back into our districts, and then share it with our other districts that we are partnered with throughout our state about all the great things that are going on and innovations that are happening in produce. Sometimes we all get in ruts, right? We all get into like the mantra, and sometimes getting new information from the source itself can really inspire and make a difference.
No, that's awesome. How many do you know what the numbers are? How many of you guys, people in your position, similar or nutritionists? That come from
goodness!
That came to the
came
show?
Here. I think we're right around 82.
Wow!
I think 82 of us, and we're across the country.
Yeah, you're representing just about.
Yeah.
I know. I saw yesterday. Houston is in house.
Oh, sure, Houston. Yep, Houston's here. I knew New Jersey's here. There's a bunch of directors actually from California. We have Colorado. There's directors from Denver, Colorado, from Minneapolis. So we are from all over. North Carolina's here, Virginia's here. So all these different organizations directors coming together from across the country to learn about what we can do with produce in our schools.
So in the Cincinnati School District, you got a general idea of how many kids you feed a day?
Yeah, well, we have 36,000 students that attend, and we're privileged to serve about 50,000 meals a day.
Wow.
To our students, that includes breakfast and lunch. We have about 86% of our kids qualify for the free lunch program. So we are definitely a high poverty district. So we're really focusing on making sure that we are pushing out delicious meals that the kids want to eat, while still having the nutritional profile that we know we need to serve.
And
it's a lot of meals.
That is a ton of meals, and Andrew was telling us, I mean, 31 million kids is the number he said across the U.S. that participate in school programs or meal plans or whatever. And what is like a big challenge? What do you see as the challenge that you face, or what do you find as your biggest challenge you face?
So there's a couple right now, and I think it's all what we're all experiencing. And the first one, of course, is the labor shortage throughout the country. I have 43 open spots right now that we're trying to fill. Supply chain has been challenging. It's been hard to get different things back into our inventory in our schools. So those have been like our main challenge points. But I think the biggest one we've been trying to hurdle over is the cost.
Yeah.
And fresh produce, of course, has a higher premium price point than a canned or a frozen.
Yeah.
So it's looking at it and taking the balanced approach of how we can make sure we're staying within our budget, because we are self-sustaining. We have to be within budget. If we're not, then the money comes from the school district to support us, and we don't want that. We want that money staying for teachers and textbooks and transportation and technology. So it's balancing what we get, and we don't get much. I have about $1.76. Yeah, that's about right. $1.76 to spend on a complete lunch meal, and that includes an 8-ounce cup of milk, 2 ounces of whole grain, 2 ounces of lean protein, a cup of vegetables, and a cup of fruit. It's really challenging. And so it's one of those dynamics where we want to introduce as much fresh produce as possible, but sometimes it has to be balanced out with a frozen. That's why I think the salad bars are so impactful for our kids, because we are ensuring that every day they are getting fresh produce as an option for their plate.
So I'm curious, $1.86.
$1.76.
$1.76.
I wish.
Yeah,
10 cents.
You take
Come
that 10 cents, yeah, right. But $1.76. Do you recall? I mean, so what is that compared to 10 years ago?
It's increased obviously with inflation. I was like maybe $1.40 was I spending on.
I'm just
before.
curious. I mean, it sounds like it doesn't sound like they've kept up with inflation.
Doesn't sound very fair.
It doesn't. Sounds like it somehow along with the ways, it didn't keep up with inflation.
Yeah, I find it ironic that transportation's always provided the kids and technology's provided the kids, and you can go into a school library and check out a book, and no matter what your social and economic class is, but you can't get a school lunch.
Yeah.
Either you have to pay for it or you are the free kid, that has to go through. And that stigma is really hard to overcome, especially at the high school level. Those high school kids don't want to be identified as the kid who needs school lunch. And so sometimes we, leveling that playing field like we had for the last 2 years where anybody could come and enjoy a meal with us at no cost, we saw a lot more high school students not being as hesitant to come and eat with us because they weren't being identified as that poor kid who needed the lunch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but I'm sure that, especially at the high school level, that's got to be a challenge. So, and education, big part of your planning, what you do. It's not just as them educating each other, like you were talking about in the breakfast time, but you guys do anything. So obviously you're feeding them. Do you guys also have external programs in the classroom or anything where you're providing them education on vegetables, fruit, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. In all of our classrooms, our wellness plan requires a nutrition education component, and the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program allows us to do that. Additionally, as we're serving out those tastings of fresh produce to our elementary students through that USDA grant, we also really like to focus on our chef will go out to our preschools and actually create different options with them. I was actually downstairs. They had little mini artichokes that they were steaming and serving. I thought, that'd be a really fun one to do. So I was writing this down. So we try and educate them in that way too, and kind of get into those preschool classrooms when those palates are really beginning to form and taste, and show them that a golden beet actually tastes kind of sweet and good.
Yeah.
And really showing them, because sometimes they hear beets are scary and red. And now sometimes I get calls from moms and they're like, their fingers are red. I'm like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means they were really enjoying it.
Exactly.
It's a good.
Yeah, no.
So we try and incorporate nutrition education
Right.
into what we do on a daily basis. It's hard to get their attention otherwise. From us, they're not going to listen to the lunch manager being like, "This is really important because it provides folic acid."
Seriously, they don't buy into the folic acid argument. That's amazing. Yeah.
So we really rely on our partnership of our teachers
Yeah.
to make sure that they are also part of the solution.
All right, so we're getting up against the time, but I can't let it go because it's important because obviously messaging is important. So I was in for yesterday with the section with Robert Irvine, right? And I think for you guys, not so much about because realistically, it was obvious. So the part that struck me was the passion from your group, right? Because it's like here comes a statement that, for all of you guys, whoa, that's counter to what reality is. And so from a communication standpoint, just to kind of close us out of here, how would you like for everybody to know about, we've talked about what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But I think more in the total, right? You're very passionate about you, but I think the passion runs through a lot of people in your position. So I think, as we close this out, a little speak to that and really what's the real things that are going on and what's really happening at the school level across the country.
Yeah, I think there's unfortunately a huge misconception about what school lunch really is. And that's because it's not your grandfather's lunch. It's not the lunch that I had, that square pizza and the corn and the fruit cocktail cup. That's not observed in any school that I know. We actually have multiple studies that have shown that the school lunch is healthier than any packed lunch. Interesting statistic for you.
Okay.
A packed lunch has only 1% of packed lunches contain a vegetable.
I believe that.
Right?
I ate ding-dongs and chips and
1%.
deviled ham. That
Right.
was what I had every day as a kid.
So the healthiest lunch you can actually have when you're at school is a school lunch.
Yeah.
Or as we like to say, lunch served at school. And so because we are offering those fresh fruits and those fresh vegetables. But it's one of those things where I think if people aren't coming and visiting a school and learning what we're doing, they just don't know.
Right.
They still have that old picture in their head. So we really make sure that we're out there talking to our parents, talking to our community, showcasing the things we're doing. We like to have an event called Taste of CPS, where we actually come through and we bring in all of our vendors, and our produce company sets up a huge salad bar, and we invite the parents in to see actually what their students are having when they're in the schools with us. I'm not sure how I think it's an easy. I think we're a low hanging fruit. We're the easy dog to kick, and so people just kind of attach on to that.
Yeah.
But there's been a whole revolution in schools and school meals.
That's interesting. I think we've talked a lot about walking the talk within the industry itself. I think a lot of us have neglected our diet, health over time, over the years, off and on, whatever you want to call it. But really walking the talk. I think even from at school. I mean, you obviously are very passionate about all of this. Obviously, if you can transfer your passion to all the teachers in all of your schools, and have them become disciples, because kids also look at their leaders or their teachers or their parents as examples. I mean, we're all going to indulge here and there, but by and large, if we can kind of stay on the straight and narrow, I mean, kids pay attention to that stuff.
I agree. I completely agree. And unfortunately, parents pay attention to stuff like what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So if you have a social media influencer or a large, a celebrity like that saying incorrect information around school meals, unfortunately, he has now spread that disinformation across many wavelengths. And for us to try and come in and correct that is very difficult.
It's a challenge.
It's always easier to believe the bad.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, and people gravitate.
More fun.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, but let's talk about the positive. What happened today with Michelle when he came in and was really talking about how school meals have changed and how we need to support that change and how we can be part of that change. And that's what we need more of. We need more of that collaboration and that partnership from our produce industry and that understanding from our parents who are willing to come in and see the wonderful things we're offering to their students every day, and really get that message out to the community as a whole.
Wow.
Because buying produce, just one more thing.
No, this is a great tagline. I hear it.
It's really important because for me, like 65% of my produce is locally purchased, which means that I'm not only just supporting my students through health and nutrition, I'm supporting my community.
Right. Your local economy there.
I'm keeping that money. If I'm going to get money from Washington, D.C., I'm going to pump it back into Ohio, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it here. And some of those people are my children's parents. So we're taking care of our own.
Full circle, right? And then you know what? That's great messaging. It's great, as you educate them. Honestly, and I've said this to a couple of people. Thank you very much, because you truly are at the front lines of changing how the country eats, how we learn up and feed, and so it really is yeoman's work. You are fighting against a lot of different. Well, you're fighting against a lot of difficult odds, old perceptions, old paradigms. But
I heard a good tagline there. Buying produce, it's really important. That alone just stands alone.
That's all we need. And
it stands alone.
Buying produce, that's all we need. But no, thank you very much for the time. Thank you very much for what you do and coming on and joining us here. We really appreciate it. And maybe I'll find myself up in Cincinnati sooner rather than later. I'm trying to get up there and see.
Come on up. Have you ever had a I shouldn't say this. Have you
Go
ever,
right
you
ahead.
ever had a three-way?
Of course I have. Of course I have. But you got to remember, I'm a Texas boy, and we don't put cinnamon in our chili. Okay?
I know. It's funny. I'm actually from Chicago, and so I don't care for the chili either. But it is our number one entree. And if I ever pulled that off a menu, I'd have kids outside my door doing letter writing campaigns. But my kids, who are, of course, were born in Cincinnati, love it.
Love it.
And I'm like, no.
Craig, can we go eat maybe at one of our schools?
I think,
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Field trip.
Field trip it is.
All right.
So thank you very much.
You're
We appreciate
welcome.
it, guys.
Jessica.
We'll be back here shortly with, I believe, Mr. Andrew Hamilton's going to join us shortly. See you guys a bit. Thanks.